Lindsay and welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be showing you guys like behind the scenes of my outlining process. I do have an entire video on how I prep for my first draft, which is my brainstorming and outlining process, like laid out step by step. I will link that up and put it down below for you guys if you want to check that out. But this is me actually at the time outlining a novel because that's where I am with my new middle grade project. I'm still pretty early on in the beginning stages. I'm still kind of just like brainstorming my outline, kind of. I usually go through multiple drafts of my outline before I'm actually ready to say, this is it, this is how the story is going to go, and feel comfortable enough to write. So let me just kind of show you what that looks like. So I've got a lot of pages of just like basic brainstorming. It's really crappy. I've got like computer pages where I've written graphs, just like a whole bunch of crappy notes. It's really messy and all over the place, but that's how I brainstorm. To outline, the very first thing that I do, and I had to cover it because, like, you know, you don't want to actually see the parts of my book. Well, maybe you do, but I'm not showing you, sister. I basically just made a small little list of all of the scenes that I think could potentially happen in my book. On this list, I only have 12 scenes. When I first started thinking about the book, that I was like, oh yeah. Usually the ones I come up with first are like the inciting incident, the opening scene, usually the climax, and a couple of the conclusions, and maybe a few little like conversations that need to happen, or I don't know, just little things. So it's very sparse. It's obviously not a full book. After that, of course, I go to my Anatomy of Story, which is my tried and true favorite writing book of all time. This has the 22 beats of a story, and I always use this. So what I actually did on this page was an entire exercise where I wrote out each of the 22 steps, kind of what they mean and what they need to have happen, and how my story could possibly fit into that. Again, this isn't like strict, and in fact up here you can't really see on purpose, but this is the inciting incident right here, and I actually listed out 3 different inciting incidences I could have happen, and then what I went from there is I just mapped out how the story would go if I took each of those 3 avenues, and that's how I pretty much outline and I play around with stuff, because I feel like you can't just go with the first thing you think of. You really need to find which beat is going to be the most dynamic and tell the best story. Even after that, I didn't feel like I could perfectly fit everything in yet. Like, I didn't have ideas for, especially for Act 2, like all of the little beats that need to happen. I just wasn't quite there yet. So what I actually did was very helpful. From Anatomy of Story, he says that you should list out all of your reveals. Obviously the first one's starting out being, you know, not too mind-blowing, going all the way down to the bottom where it's just like, you know, end all be all reveal. I found listing these out so incredibly helpful because I needed scenes surrounding each of these reveals, obviously. So that was really great. It really got the juices flowing, and I then moved on to my next little exercise at the top here, which just looks like a bunch of chunky paragraphs, which is exactly what it is. Basically at this part, I am going literally scene by scene and just brain vomiting everything I can think of, like things she's thinking, things that need to be hidden from her that she doesn't know, what she's doing, who she's talking to, the tone and the atmosphere of the book, like the way that I want to write the chapter. It's all just completely vomited in there. But this was just really helpful because it took me from having just bullet pointed this could happen and then this could happen to actually having scene by scene, line by line, kind of an actual flow for how the entire story is going to go. I know that was really messy and probably kind of confusing to follow, but that these early processes, that's how they work for me. They're just like in my mind, in my head, vomiting words and ideas out on a page and later making sense of them. And as you can see, every time I moved on to a new exercise or a new draft or whatever of this outline, it got a little bit more detailed. Now that I have this done, I see that I need to spend a little bit more time figuring out how some characters are involved with the villain, and that's all in the mystery plot. You know, I need to make a few more connections. So that'll be the next step. It's just a couple hours later and I am just a little bit stuck with this mystery subplot. And so I have an idea. Most of you know that my comp title for The Glass Witch was Hocus Pocus, which is very similar, just like in vibe and atmosphere, in plot and stuff. It's really different. But I was really struggling in the beginning when I was outlining that book to find a way to fit the entire story in 24 hours. And I know that Hocus Pocus is a 24-hour runtime plot timeline. There we go, timeline. So what I actually did was I watched Hocus Pocus and I wrote down every single main plot point. And when I had that figured out how they fit each beat in the timeline, it really unlocked something with my book. So I'm hoping I can do the same thing with Sleepy Hollow and the mystery subplot. Alright, so the movie was done. That was perfect. I got so much written. As you can see, little Maxie and Eppie are behind me just chilling. So I just wrote out the entire movie basically. Whether or not I thought the scene pertained to what I needed, I did it all anyway. And especially Act 2, which is like from here all the way to like maybe here. This was just so helpful to watch how the mystery progressed. So anyways, I just feel a little bit better having done this, and I feel like I can get back into that outline. Probably not now because I've got some stuff to do, but definitely tomorrow. I feel like I'm gonna nail it. Okay, so it's a couple days later and I just wanted to update you. I finally cracked that issue that I was having with the subplot of the mystery and how the villain was all tied in and like how all the other people were connected. I finally cracked that and I'm so happy about it. Since I got that done, I felt comfortable enough to go ahead and try to figure out the timeline for my book. I figured it all out, and the book is going to span, as of right now in this first draft of an outline, it is going to span 5 days. So it's a couple days later and I'm finally getting to the part where I take my outline and I kind of transpose it onto an Excel spreadsheet so that I can just look at all of the moving parts. But before I did that, I made the decision to go through all of my brainstorming notes one last time just to make sure there was nothing that I left out that should be added to, you know, the big, huge, chunky paragraphs where I just brain vomit everything. Yeah, I just want to make sure I didn't leave anything out. And I found this exercise I did with Anatomy of Story, and I just want to show you guys because I'm rereading it and I'm just like having a brain explosion. So what you're doing with this is you take your main character and basically any of the other main players in your book, whether that be the best friend, the love interest, the villain, whoever. In this story, I have 4 main players. And basically what you do is compare and contrast all of these things. So you have your needs, which in Anatomy of Story, John Truby breaks it down so that you have 2 different kinds of needs. You have a psychological need and a moral need. And then you all, of course, all characters have their weaknesses and then how they deal with the moral problem. The moral problem is basically the theme of the book or the lesson that the main character needs to learn, which is also called the psychological need, and that is that magical ability or level doesn't define who you are. And that's kind of the theme of the book, and that's what my main character needs to learn. Basically, the point of this comparing and contrasting of all of your main players is because you want each of your main players to be kind of a mirror image or a shadow image of your main character and the problems that they're facing. So if you're listing out their weaknesses, as you can see, my main character's physical weaknesses is that she is disabled and she is magicless. I have them blocked off because some of them are spoilers, but one of my other characters' weaknesses is that they are physically very able-bodied and they are super, super magical, almost to the point where it is a weakness because they have so much magic. And as you can kind of see, that's the complete opposite of what my main character has. So there's a really interesting, almost like thematic play there that just kind of, I think, deepens the story a bit more. And obviously, because all of your characters are going to have different weaknesses and different needs, they're going to deal with the moral problem differently or view it differently. So for example, because the theme or the thing that my character needs to learn in the end is that ability, whether it be magical or like able body ability, doesn't define you. She is going to deal with the problem in a way that she has this moral need that she needs to overcome, and that is that because she doesn't have magic and she covets it so bad, she actually goes around and steals magical artifacts from other people. She also has kind of like internalized ableism thoughts that, you know, if you're not able-bodied and if you aren't abled in the magical ability, you're less than. So yeah, I just wanted to share that. I don't know if that's actually going to be helpful to you guys, but I just really liked it because I think using that method, you can compare all of your characters, kind of have them all attacking each other's weaknesses and needs, and like they all being different ways of portraying theme. I don't know, I'm having a hard time describing it. Anatomy of Story is like way more smart than me. So read that to know the full scope. Also, I just realized by writing this, I think I just wrote a gender bent Draco Malfoy if Draco Malfoy was disabled. Like, that's my main character. Oh my gosh, did I just write Harry Potter fanfic? I wanted to really quickly kind of show the setup for my outline. So I will have the scene ones because I don't really know how the chapters are going to be split up yet. So I'm just using scene and then the day and then the time of day up here. And then I just kind of froze those in place. And then along the sides, I'm going to put the plot. Then we're going to do the reveals because I want to track those for each chapter. The character arc, where she's at in her development, the friendship, because it is going to be kind of like an enemies to friends situation, and then her migraines, because I just want to make sure that I don't just say, oh, she has migraines, and then just never show her having symptoms, because I'll get too caught up in like the character arc or the plot or, you know, whatever else that I know this will probably fall on the wayside. So if I keep track of it through each chapter from the beginning, I might not have to do as much revision later if we have it all here. So, yep, that's what that's gonna look like. I will show you what it looks like when I'm done. So the outline has officially been completed now. This is what the completed outline looks like. Again, I just really like this spreadsheet method, especially where I'm able to just like plot the character arc or the reveals right along with the main plot. That way I know that I'm not missing any character arc beats. I've got all of the reveals, so I know I've got a really interesting story happening with lots of twists and turns. And yeah, so my outline's officially done. That's so exciting. So I know everyone's next question is gonna be, well, like, yeah, your outline's done. When are you gonna start writing? I'm not ready to start writing. I actually have this whole list of things that I still want to do before I'm ready to start writing. For instance, there's some research I've got to do on a couple things. I want to get to the ghost in my book. I need to get her backstory written and the lore surrounding her figured out. There's some magical creatures that I'm thinking about putting in the setting, but I'm not really sure like what part they would play yet. So I gotta figure that out. I've got to figure out who has what type of oddity. I've got to gather some more names for some people. I gotta do some world building. So I like really want to nail down like the society and the rules and the roles of the oddities. I'd like to write some feeler scenes so I can kind of get a feel for my main character's voice. Also, I need to play around with point of view because I'm thinking I want to write it in first, but I'm not sure. I might go with third this time, so I want to try both, maybe write like a little scene and see which one feels better. And then I'm also working on a query because I have found that this time writing the query before I started drafting was like really helpful, and it helped direct my outline. So that was a really cool method that I think I'm gonna do from now on. I had to set the camera down because I'm having some like shoulder and some neck pain today that is not fun. Anyway, so even now that I have my outline done and I have all of those other tasks that need to be finished, I don't quite feel like I'm ready to start drafting this book. I haven't really talked about this, but I did kind of mention it in my why I didn't start NaNoWriMo video, where I just feel a little tired, overwhelmed, burnt out maybe even, and I just want to take the rest of this year, November and December, and just relax. So if I get around to all of those things on my list this year, that's great. If not, I'm not gonna stress. I've done a butt ton this year in regards to writing, so I just want to relax. I don't know. Have a relaxing time. So I might not draft this until the new year. But anyways, you guys, that is how I outline in real time. I'm so glad I got to share that with you. Like, I think that's just such a cool experience, and I love watching other people's videos like this. But let me know down in the comments how you guys personally outline, if you use note cards, notebooks, Excel like I do, if you use multiple ones all at the same time. I kind of do that in different steps too. So I really want to know about your process because I'm always looking to evolve and adapt my own. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!